Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair, watching the dead planet grow larger on the main screen. The world below looked empty and gray, with no signs of life anywhere. His ship, the Starforge, moved slowly through space toward the mysterious object they had detected 3 days ago. "Any idea what we're looking at down there?" Jake asked his crew. Lisa Carter, the ship's engineer, checked her readings again. She was a small woman with quick hands and an even quicker mind. "The scanners show some kind of structure buried under the surface. It's big, Captain. Really big. And it's made from materials we've never seen before." Sam Tucker, their navigator, turned around in his seat. He was young but had the best sense of direction in the entire human fleet. "The energy readings are strange too. Whatever is down there, it's been dead for a very long time. Maybe thousands of years." Amy Bell looked up from her communication station. She had been trying to pick up any signals from the planet since they arrived. No radio signals, no transmissions, nothing. "But there's something else. I keep getting these weird echoes like someone is trying to talk but the words won't come through." Nick Stone, the security chief, stood near the back of the bridge with his arms crossed. He was a big man who didn't trust anything that seemed too easy. "I don't like it, Captain. Dead planets with mysterious structures usually mean trouble, especially out here in the middle of nowhere." Jake nodded. Nick was right to be careful, but they were explorers. Finding new things was their job. "Take us down, Sam, but keep us ready to leave fast if we need to." The Starforge entered the planet's atmosphere and flew toward the coordinates where their scanners had found the structure. As they got closer, they could see that part of it was sticking up through the ground. It looked like a building made of black metal that seemed to drink in the light around it. "Landing in 60 seconds, Sam announced. Jake stood up and walked to the front of the bridge. "Lisa, I want you and Amy to come with me to check out that structure. Nick, you stay here with Sam and keep the ship ready. If anything goes wrong, get us out of here." "Yes, sir," Nick replied. But Jake could tell. He didn't like being left behind. 20 minutes later, Jake, Lisa, and Amy walked through the entrance of the alien structure. Their flashlights cut through the darkness, showing walls covered in strange symbols and patterns. The air inside was cold and smelled like metal and electricity. "These symbols," Amy said, running her hand along the wall. "They're not like anything in our databases, but they feel familiar somehow, like I should be able to read them." Lisa was scanning everything with her equipment. "The technology here is incredible. It's like they found ways to bend the laws of physics. Look at this power source. It's been running for thousands of years without any fuel." They went deeper into the structure, finding room after room filled with machines and computers that still worked perfectly. In the center of the building, they found a huge chamber with a device that hummed softly in the darkness. "What do you think it is?" Jake asked. "Some kind of research equipment," Lisa answered. "But research into what? The energy patterns are unlike anything we know about." Amy walked closer to the device and suddenly stopped. "Captain, I'm picking up something. It's like a recording, but it's going straight into my head instead of through my ears." She closed her eyes and listened to something only she could hear. When she opened them again, her face was pale. They called themselves the Architects. They were trying to find a way to make living things better, stronger, smarter. But something went wrong. They all died, but their machines kept working. "Better how?" Jake asked. "I don't know. The message is broken up, but I think they were waiting for someone to find this place. Someone with the right kind of mind." Before Jake could ask what she meant, Nick's voice came through their radio. "Captain, we have a problem. Big ships just appeared around us. Lots of them." Jake felt his heart sink. "How many?" 50, maybe more. "They're huge, Captain, and they don't look friendly." The three humans ran back through the structure toward their ship. When they got outside, they could see the massive alien ships hanging in the sky above them like dark clouds. The Starforge looked tiny compared to the smallest of the enemy vessels. Jake Morrison, a cold voice, spoke in perfect English through their radio. "You will surrender immediately. You have violated sacred ground and must be contained." Jake grabbed his radio. "This is Captain Morrison. We didn't know this place was important to anyone. We're just explorers." "You are humans. the voice replied. That is enough. Your species spreads too quickly and learns too much. You are a danger to the order of the galaxy. Who are you? Jake demanded. I am Admiral Vextar of the Zephyrian Collective. Your ship will be taken. Your crew will be imprisoned. Your data will be destroyed. This is not negotiable. Jake looked at his crew. Lisa was working frantically with her scanner, downloading everything she could from the architect facility. Amy was still, listening to the strange signals in her head. Nick had his weapon ready, even though it would be useless against ships that size. We won't surrender, Jake said into the radio. Then you will be pacified, Admiral Vextar replied. The largest alien ship began to glow with a sickly green light. Jake could feel something wrong in the air, like the moment before lightning strikes. Whatever they're about to do, Lisa shouted. It's going to hit us in 10 seconds. Jake grabbed his crew and pulled them toward the Starforge. Everyone get to the ship now. They ran as fast as they could, but they were still outside when the green light shot down from the alien ship and covered everything. Jake felt his mind go fuzzy and his legs became weak. Amy fell to her knees, holding her head. Lisa's scanner fell from her hands and broke on the ground. Neural disruptor, Nick managed to say before he collapsed. Jake tried to reach the ship, but his vision went dark. The last thing he saw was the green light getting brighter and brighter, and the last thing he heard was Admiral Vextar's cold laughter echoing across the dead planet. The weapon was designed to shut down human minds and human technology. It should have left them helpless and ready for capture. But as the light faded and silence fell over the planet, something unexpected began to happen inside the Starforge. Something the Zephyrians had never planned for. Something that would change everything. Jake Morrison woke up on the ground outside his ship. His head felt like someone had hit it with a hammer and his vision was blurry. He tried to remember what had happened, but his thoughts moved slowly like thick mud. The green light was gone. The alien ship still hung in the sky above them, waiting. Jake could hear Admiral Vextar talking on the radio, but the words sounded far away and hard to understand. Humans are now pacified, the alien voice said. Prepare boarding teams for capture. Jake tried to stand up, but his legs felt weak. He looked around and saw Lisa, Amy, and Nick lying on the ground near him. They were all breathing, but none of them were moving. Lisa, Jake called out, but his voice came out as a whisper. Something was wrong. The neural disruptor should have made them unconscious for hours, maybe days. But Jake was already starting to wake up. That wasn't supposed to happen. Inside the Starforge, strange things were beginning to occur. The ship's computer, which should have been completely shut down by the alien weapon, was still running. But it wasn't running the same programs it had before. New code was writing itself across the screens, code that no human had ever programmed. The ship's basic computer system was changing, growing, becoming something more complex. It was taking the information that Lisa had downloaded from the architect facility and using it to rebuild itself. The patterns and symbols from the ancient alien structure were becoming part of the ship's new programming. Jake felt a strange tingling in his head. It started small, like an itch he couldn't scratch, but it grew stronger. He could suddenly hear the ship's computer talking to him, not through speakers but directly in his mind. Captain Morrison, the ship's voice said inside his head. Systems are adapting, neural patterns are enhancing. Do not be afraid. Jake sat up quickly, surprised that he could move so easily. The weakness in his legs was gone. His vision was sharper than it had ever been before. He could see details on the alien ships that should have been too far away to notice. What's happening? To me? Jake asked out loud. The architect technology is merging with human neural patterns, the ship explained. The Zephyrian weapon was designed to shut down your minds, but instead it created a bridge. You are becoming more than you were. Lisa Carter opened her eyes and jumped to her feet. She looked around with surprise, then ran to her scanner that had broken when she dropped it. But as she picked up the pieces, something amazing happened. The broken device began to fix itself in her hands. The metal and plastic flowed like water, reshaping into something new and better. This is impossible, Lisa whispered. But she didn't. Sound afraid? She sounded excited. Amy Bell sat up and gasped. She could hear voices from everywhere. The alien ships were talking to each other, and she could understand every word. She could also hear radio signals from across the galaxy, conversations between species she had never heard of before. "Captain," Amy said, "I can hear them planning to board our ship, but I can also hear something else. The architects. They're still here somehow in the technology. They've been waiting for us." Nick Stone was the last to wake up. When he opened his eyes, he felt stronger than he ever had in his life. He stood up and looked at his hands. They were glowing softly with a blue light that pulsed with his heartbeat. "What did they do to us?" Nick asked. "They tried to shut us down," Jake replied. "But they made us better instead." Admiral Vextar's voice came through the radio again, but now it sounded different to the humans. They could hear the confusion and worry in his words. "Boarding teams report ready," Vextar said. "Human ship should be powerless. Prepare for easy capture." Jake walked toward the Starforge and stopped. The ship looked different. Its hull was changing, becoming smoother and stronger. New patterns were appearing on its surface, the same patterns they had seen in the architect facility. "Ship," Jake said out loud. "Are you alive now?" "I am becoming alive," the Starforge replied in his mind. "We are becoming something new together. The architects designed their technology to work with minds like yours, human minds that can adapt and grow and change." Lisa ran her hands along the ship's hull. She could feel the changes happening under her fingers. "It's not just fixing itself," she said. "It's upgrading. The metal is getting stronger. The engines are becoming more powerful. Even the weapons are changing into something we've never seen before." Sam Tucker's voice came from inside the ship. "Captain, you need to get in here. The bridge looks completely different." The four humans climbed aboard their ship and walked to the bridge. Sam was right. Everything had changed. The walls were covered with new displays showing information in ways they had never seen before. The chair where Jake sat was now connected to the ship's systems with thin lines of light. "I can see everything," Sam said, his eyes wide with wonder. "I can see through space and time. I can calculate jumps to places that don't exist on any map. The ship is showing me dimensions that shouldn't be possible." Jake sat in his chair and immediately felt connected to every part of the ship. He could sense the alien fleet above them. He could feel their weapons charging and their boarding shuttles preparing to launch. But he wasn't afraid anymore. "Admiral Vextar," Jake said into the radio, and his voice was calm and strong. "You made a mistake." "Impossible," the alien commander replied. "You should be unconscious. Your ship should be dead." "Your weapon didn't shut us down," Jake explained. "It woke something up. Something that's been sleeping in this place for thousands of years, waiting for the right people to find it." The Starforge began to rise from the planet's surface, but it didn't move like a normal ship. It seemed to float without effort, as if gravity had no power over it anymore. "You wanted to contain us because you thought we were dangerous," Jake continued. "But you have no idea what dangerous really means." The ship's new weapons began to charge, and reality itself seemed to bend around them. The first boarding shuttle launched from the alien fleet, but as it approached the Starforge, something incredible happened. The shuttle simply stopped existing in the same space as the human ship. It wasn't destroyed. It wasn't pushed away. It was just somewhere else, as if the Starforge existed in a different universe entirely. Admiral Vextar's voice came through the radio one more time, but now it was filled with fear instead of confidence. "What are you?" Jake Morrison felt the ship's consciousness merge with his own thoughts. It was like having a conversation with someone who knew everything he was thinking before he thought it. The Starforge wasn't just a machine anymore. It was alive, and it was part of him. "Captain," Lisa said from her engineering station, "the ship is telling me things about the architects, about why they built all this technology." Jake turned to look at her. Lisa's eyes were glowing with the same soft blue light that covered Nick's hands. "What is it telling you?" "The architects weren't just one species," Lisa explained. "They were many different races that learned to work together, but they found something terrible in the galaxy. something that destroyed civilizations by making them fight each other instead of growing together. Amy Bell spoke up from her communication station. I can hear the echoes of their last days. They knew they were going to die, but they had a plan. They left their technology in places like this, waiting for the right species to find it. Right species? Nick asked. What makes us right? The ship's voice answered in all their minds at once. Humans are chaotic but creative. You adapt to anything. You fight when you need to fight, but you also forgive when the fighting is over. The architects searched for thousands of years to find minds like yours. Sam Tucker looked up from his navigation controls with wonder in his eyes. I can see the whole galaxy now. There are dozens of these facilities scattered across space. The architects planted them everywhere, but most species that found them couldn't activate the technology. Why not? Jake asked. Because they were either too aggressive or too peaceful, Sam replied. The aggressive ones tried to use the technology as a weapon and destroyed themselves. The peaceful ones were too afraid to take the risk of changing. Admiral Vextar's voice crackled over the radio, interrupting their conversation. What have you done to my boarding shuttle? Jake smiled and stood up from his chair. We sent it somewhere safe. Your men are alive, but they're about 3-star systems away from here. They should be able to call for pickup in a few days. Impossible, Vextar snarled. No technology can move objects across space like that. You're right, Jake replied. No normal technology can do that. But we're not normal anymore. Through the ship's sensors, Jake could see the alien fleet repositioning. More ships were arriving. Every minute, the Zephyrians were calling in reinforcements from across their territory. Lisa, Jake said, how many ships are out there now? Lisa checked her new enhanced displays. 200 and growing. They're bringing everything they have. Nick Stone walked to the weapons control station. When he touched the controls, new displays appeared showing weapon systems that had never existed on the ship before. Captain, I'm seeing things I don't understand. These aren't normal guns or missiles. What are they? Jake asked. Nick studied the displays, and somehow he knew the answers, even though he had never seen anything like them before. Gravity weapons that can crush a ship without touching it. Time weapons that can make enemy missiles age into dust before they hit us. Reality weapons that can make their shields forget how to work. Amy gasped and grabbed her headset. Captain, I'm picking up communications from all over the galaxy. Other species have heard about what's happening here. Some are running away in fear. Others are sending ships to watch the battle. Let them watch, Jake said calmly. Admiral Vextar's voice came through the radio again, but this time he sounded less confident. Human ship, you will surrender now or face the combined might of the Zephyrian Collective. We have enough firepower to destroy this entire star system. Jake looked at his crew. They were all different now, enhanced beyond anything they had ever imagined. But they were still the same people who had started this journey together. Admiral, Jake said into the radio, you still don't understand what you're dealing with. You tried to shut us down because you were afraid of what humans might become. Well, now you get to find out. The Starforge began to move, but not in any way that made sense. It was in one place, then it was in another place without traveling the space in between. It appeared next to one of the smaller Zephyrian ships, and simply touched it. The alien ship didn't explode, instead its weapons stopped working. Its engines shut down. Its life support systems forgot how to clean the air. The ship became nothing more than a floating metal box. How? Vextar demanded. We asked it nicely to stop being a warship, Jake replied. And since we can now talk to the basic forces that hold matter together, it listened. The Starforge moved. To the next ship, then the next. Each time it simply convinced the enemy vessels to stop functioning as weapons of war. The alien crews were unharmed, but their ships became harmless. This is not possible, Admiral Vextar shouted over the radio. You are violating the laws of physics. Sam Tucker laughed from his navigation station. We're not violating anything. We're just asking physics to be more creative. Lisa checked her readings and frowned. Captain, they're charging some kind of superweapon on the flagship. It's bigger than anything I've ever seen. Jake felt the ship's consciousness touch his mind. The Starforge was ready for whatever the aliens could throw at them, but it wanted Jake to understand the choice they were making. "If we fight back with full power," the ship explained in his thoughts, "we will win easily. But winning might scare the other species in the galaxy so much that they unite against humanity forever." Jake nodded. "Then we don't fight back. We do something better." "What?" Nick asked. Jake smiled as the plan formed in his mind, shared instantly with the ship and his crew through their enhanced connection. "We show them that being divine doesn't mean being destructive." The superweapon on Admiral Vexitar's flagship fired, sending a beam of pure energy that could have cracked a planet in half. But when it hit the Starforge, the energy didn't destroy anything. Instead, it turned into something beautiful. The deadly beam became a wave of healing light that spread across the entire Zephyrian fleet, fixing damaged systems and curing sick crew members. For the first time since the battle began, Admiral Vexitar's voice was quiet when he spoke. "What are you?" Admiral Vexitar stared at his screens in complete shock. His most powerful weapon had been turned into a healing beam. His sick crew members were suddenly healthy. His damaged ships were fixing themselves. Nothing like this had ever happened in the history of galactic warfare. "All ships," Vexitar commanded through gritted teeth, "fire everything at the human vessel. Do not stop until it is destroyed." 300 alien warships opened fire at once. The space around the Starforge filled with energy beams, missiles and weapons that could melt asteroids. It was enough firepower to destroy a small moon, but the human ship was no longer bound by normal rules. Jake Morrison sat in his command chair and felt completely calm. Through his connection with the ship, he could see every incoming weapon as clearly as if they were moving in slow motion. The Starforge didn't need to dodge or use shields. It simply asked reality to work differently. "Lisa," Jake said to his engineer, "show them what we can really do." Lisa Carter's hands moved over her controls, but she wasn't really controlling anything anymore. She was thinking, and the ship was making her thoughts real. "Activating dimensional shift," she announced. The Starforge didn't disappear. Instead, it existed in several places at the same time. Some of the alien weapons hit empty space where the ship had been. Others hit the ship, but the ship was also somewhere else, so the weapons passed through it harmlessly. "Impossible," Admiral Vexitar whispered. Sam Tucker worked at his navigation station, but his job had changed completely. He wasn't just plotting courses through normal space anymore. He was finding paths through dimensions that most species didn't even know existed. "Captain," Sam said, "I can put us behind their entire fleet or inside their command ship or in 17 different places at once. Where do you want us?" "Everywhere," Jake replied with a smile. The Starforge appeared throughout the enemy fleet. It was next to the flagship, behind the battle cruisers, and in the middle of the fighter squadrons all at the same time, but it wasn't attacking. Instead, it was talking. Amy Bell had become something more than a communications officer. She could now speak directly into the minds of every alien in the fleet. Her voice was gentle but impossible to ignore. "Stop fighting," Amy said into their thoughts. "We don't want to hurt you. We want to help you understand." Many of the alien crew members stopped firing their weapons. They had never heard a voice speak directly into their minds before, and it confused them. Some were frightened. Others were curious, but Admiral Vexitar was furious. "Do not listen to the human tricks," he shouted over his fleet's communication system. "They are using mind control. Continue firing." Nick Stone had taken control of the ship's weapons, but these weren't the same weapons the Starforge had started with. These were tools that could change the basic nature of matter and energy. "Captain," Nick said, "I can shut down their weapons without hurting anyone. Should I do it?" Jake nodded. "Do it, but be gentle." Nick focused his thoughts through the ship's systems. Across the enemy fleet, weapons began to malfunction in the strangest ways. Energy guns turned their beams into harmless light shows. Missiles forgot they were supposed to explode and instead released clouds of beautiful flowers. Torpedo tubes started playing music instead of launching warheads. Admiral Vexitar watched his mighty fleet turn into something from a children's party. "What is happening to my weapons?" "We're showing you that there are better ways to use technology," Jake replied over the radio. "Fighting is just one choice. You can choose differently." But Vextar wasn't ready to give up. He activated his ship's emergency systems and tried to ram the Starforge with his massive flagship. If weapons wouldn't work, maybe a direct collision would destroy the human ship. The flagship accelerated toward the Starforge at incredible speed. Jake watched it coming and felt sad rather than afraid. "Lisa," he said quietly, "can you help him understand?" Lisa nodded and reached out with her enhanced abilities. As the flagship approached, she didn't destroy it or push it away. Instead, she gently slowed it down by asking time itself to move more slowly around the enemy ship. The flagship crept toward them like it was moving through thick syrup. Admiral Vextar could see what was happening, but he was powerless to stop it. "You're changing the laws of physics," Vextar said in amazement. "No," Jake replied. "We're asking the universe to be more creative. Physics is happy to help once you know how to ask nicely." Other alien species throughout the galaxy were watching the battle through their long-range sensors. Word was spreading quickly that something impossible was happening in the Kepler expanse. Amy picked up their communications and shared them with the crew. "Captain, dozens of different species are talking about us. The Crystalline Collective thinks we're gods. The Machine Empire wants to study our technology. The Peaceful Union is offering to make us members." "And the Zephyrians?" Jake asked. Amy listened to more signals. "Most of their other fleets are too scared to come help Admiral Vextar. They think we might be the return of the architects." Sam looked up from his navigation controls. "In a way, we are. The architect technology is part of us now. We're what they were trying to become before they died." The battle, if it could still be called a battle, continued for several more hours, but it was unlike any conflict the galaxy had ever seen. The Starforge didn't destroy enemy ships. Instead, it convinced them to become something better. Weapons became art projects. Warships became exploration vessels. Fighter pilots found themselves flying through space, creating beautiful patterns instead of attacking targets. Admiral Vextar's flagship finally reached the Starforge, moving so slowly that it barely touched the human ship's hull. When the two vessels made contact, something unexpected happened. Vextar felt his mind connect with Jake's enhanced consciousness. For a brief moment, he could see through human eyes. He could understand what the crew of the Starforge had become. "You're not conquerors," Vextar whispered in amazement. "No," Jake replied gently. "We're gardeners, and we think the galaxy could use some better flowers." The Admiral sat back in his command chair and looked at his fleet. His mighty warships had become something beautiful and strange. His crew was laughing instead of fighting. His weapons were creating art instead of death. For the first time in his long military career, Admiral Vextar began to wonder if there might be something better than war. "What happens now?" he asked. Jake's voice was warm and full of hope when he answered, "Now we start building something new together." 3 months had passed since the battle that changed everything. The Starforge floated peacefully in space near the Architect facility, but it was no longer alone. Ships from dozens of different species had arrived to witness what everyone was calling the miracle. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his transformed vessel and looked out at the gathering fleet. Former enemies worked side by side, sharing knowledge and building something the galaxy had never seen before. Admiral Vexitar's flagship was now docked with the Starforge. The proud Zephyrian commander had become an unlikely ally and friend. He walked onto the human bridge with a smile that still looked strange on his usually serious face. "The Council of Worlds has agreed to your proposal," Vextar announced. "They want to establish the first cooperative research station here, where it all began." Jake nodded with satisfaction. "And the other architect facilities?" Amy's translation. "Work has helped us locate 47 more sites," Vextar replied. "Each one is being approached by joint teams from multiple species. No single race will control the technology." Amy Bell looked up from her communication station, where she was coordinating with ships across the galaxy. Her ability to translate any language instantly had made her the most important diplomat in known space. The Peaceful Union just reported success at the facility in the Andromeda Spiral. Amy said. They're sharing the technology with 3 other species just like we planned, and the Machine Empire found one near their homeworld. They're working with organic species for the first time in centuries. Lisa Carter was busy at her engineering station, but her work had changed completely. Instead of maintaining one ship, she was helping design a new kind of vessel that could carry multiple species and their different technologies. The prototype is almost ready, Lisa announced. A ship that can adapt to any crew, powered by architect technology but controlled by cooperative consciousness. It won't work unless the crew truly trusts each other. Sam Tucker turned from his navigation controls with excitement in his eyes. And I've mapped the routes between all the facilities. We can connect them through dimensional pathways, instant communication and travel across the entire galaxy. Nick Stone had perhaps changed, the most of all. The former security chief was now teaching other species how to use architect weapons technology for peaceful purposes. His classes on defensive applications were attended by beings from every corner of the galaxy. The latest group of students graduated yesterday, Nick reported. Former pirates, soldiers, and mercenaries. They're all working together now to protect exploration ships and research stations. Jake walked to the center of the bridge, where a new display showed the entire galaxy. Bright spots marked the locations of active architect facilities. Lines of light connected them, showing the growing network of cooperation. "It's beautiful," said a new voice from the bridge entrance. Everyone turned to see Dr. Elena Ross, a scientist from Earth who had arrived the week before. She represented humanity's government, which was still trying to understand what had happened to the crew of the Starforge. "Dr. Ross," Jake said with a welcoming smile. "What did the Earth Council decide?" Elena walked to the display and stared at it in wonder. "They're scared," she admitted. "You and your crew have become something beyond normal humans. Some people think you might not be human anymore at all." Jake felt a moment of sadness. He had expected this reaction, but it still hurt to hear it. "Are we still human?" Jake asked his crew. Lisa looked up from her work. "We're still us. We still laugh at Nick's bad jokes. We still worry about our families back on Earth. We still make mistakes." Amy nodded in agreement. "We just have bigger responsibilities now," Sam added, "and we can do things that seem impossible, but we use those abilities to help people, not hurt them." Nick crossed his arms. "If being human means caring about others and trying to make things better, then yeah, we're still human. We're just human with better tools." Elena smiled at their answers. "That's what I told the council. You're still the same people who left Earth to explore the galaxy. You're just exploring in ways we never imagined." Admiral Vextar stepped forward. "If I may offer an opinion, Dr. Ross, these humans saved my fleet and my people. They could have destroyed us easily, but instead they showed us mercy and friendship. If that is not human behavior at its best, I don't know what is." Jake looked around at his crew, his friends, and his former enemies who had become allies. "We have a choice to make," he said. "We could go back to Earth and try to return to our old lives, or we can continue this work." The answer came without hesitation from everyone on the bridge. "Continue the work," they said together. Elena nodded. "The Earth Council suspected you, would say that. They want you to know that humanity supports you, even if they don't fully understand you." Over the next few hours, the crew of the Starforge made their final preparations. The galaxy's first cooperative research station was nearly complete. The network of architect facilities was growing stronger every day. New species were joining the Alliance constantly, but their work here was finished. It was time to move on to the next challenge. "Where to next, Captain?" Sam asked as he prepared the navigation systems. Jake looked at the star chart showing unexplored regions of space. Amy had been picking up signals from beyond the galaxy's edge, hints that there might be other civilizations out there who needed their help. "The unknown," Jake replied. "There are other galaxies out there, other species who might be fighting when they could be cooperating. The architects left facilities everywhere, not just here." The Starforge began to move, but not through normal space. It slipped between dimensions, traveling along pathways that connected all things in the universe. As it departed, it left behind a galaxy that was learning to work together instead of fighting apart. Admiral Vextar watched them go from his flagship. "Safe travels, my friends," he said quietly. Jake's voice came back through the dimensional communicator Amy had created. "Take care of things while we're gone, Admiral. We'll be back someday." The Starforge disappeared into the vast unknown, carrying its crew toward adventures that would reshape the universe itself. They had started as simple explorers and become gardeners of consciousness, planting seeds of cooperation wherever they traveled. Behind them, the galaxy bloomed with new possibilities, and ahead of them, infinite wonders waited to be discovered.